Hi there. Fyodor Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, the most dangerous idea in literature. Today, we are going to do the plot summary. What if I told you that one of the greatest novels ever written begins with a man who is completely, logically, 100% convinced that he has the right to commit murder? He is not a madman. He is not a monster. He is a student, 23 years old, brilliant, but he is starving. He is alone in a room the size of a closet in the middle of St. Petersburg. And here is the terrifying part. When you hear his argument, part of you will understand it. This is crime and punishment, and it will change the way you think about your own mind. Today, we are going deep into Fyodor Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. It was published in 1866. Still, psychologically, the most devastating novel ever written. This is not a murder mystery. This is not a Russian classic your teacher made you read and immediately forget. This is a 500-page argument about the human soul, and Dostoevsky wins the argument on every single page. By the end of this video, you will understand the story, the characters, the themes, and most importantly, what Dostoevsky was actually trying to say to the world. The man in the room. St. Petersburg. Summers. The heat is suffocating and the city smells like it. We meet Rodion Romanovich Raskolnikov, and that name is already our first clue. In Russian, his name comes from the word Raskol, which means a schism, a split, a crack, right down the middle. He is literally a divided man, and we are going to feel that division on every single page of the novel. He lives in a tiny garret, a coffin shaped room where he can barely stand upright. He owes months of rent to his landlady. He has abandoned his law degree. He barely eats. He has cut himself off from every human being who cares about him. But here's the thing, he is not stupid. He is not lazy. He is extraordinarily intelligent. He could work. He could teach students, translate documents, do a dozen things. He chose not to because something is consuming him, a thought, an idea so enormous that ordinary life, rent, food, human contact has become completely, utterly irrelevant for him. He has a theory. He has divided all of humanity into two categories: the ordinary, the mass of people who obey the law, live quiet lives, and die quietly, and the extraordinary, the Napoleons, the Newtons, the great men of history who have a natural right to transgress moral law if their purpose is great enough. Napoleon killed hundreds of thousands. Nobody put him on trial. Moses broke every existing law to found a new one. The great legislators of antique were technically criminals by the standards of the orders they were overturning. The extraordinary man, Raskolnikov argues, may cross any line if the cause demands it. And then he asks himself the question that will destroy him: which one am I? There is a pawnbroker who lives nearby, Alyona Ivanovna, old, miserly, predatory. She charges impossible interest rates to desperate people. She exploits her gentle half sister as an unpaid servant. She hoards money she will never spend. In Raskolnikov's mind, she is what he calls a louse, a parasite on the body of society. Her money, redistributed, could save dozens of lives. He visits her apartment on the pretense of pawning a watch. He is timing the rooms, observing her habits, running the calculations. He is revolted by himself. He cannot stop. Then his mother writes him a letter. His sister, Dunya, has agreed to marry a man named Luzhin, a pompous, calculating bureaucrat, purely to secure money for the family, to fund Raskolnikov's education. She is selling herself into a loveless marriage for him, and Raskolnikov sees it immediately. This is the same sacrifice that Sonya Marmaladova, the daughter of a broken drunk he just met in a tavern, has been forced to make on the streets of St. Petersburg. Two women destroying themselves for the man they love, He is furious. He will not allow it. That night, he has a dream. He is a child. He watches a peasant beating an old, worn out mare to death in front of a laughing crowd. He runs forward, weeping, and throws his arms around the dead horse's neck. He wakes in a cold sweat. He tells himself, I cannot do this. I am not this kind of person. Then he goes and does it anyway. The murder. The following evening, moving like a man in a dream, he takes a hatchet from the porter's lodge of his building and walks to Alyona's apartment. She opens the door. He kills her. He searches the apartment frantically, taking far less than he could have, barely registering what he takes. The money was never really the point. And then the door opens. Lizaveta, Alyona's gentle, innocent, exploited half sister, walks in carrying a bundle of laundry. She raises one arm to protect herself. She does not scream. She does not fight. She simply makes herself small against the wall. He kills her too. Here is where the theory dies. Raskolnikov's entire argument was built on Alyona, the parasite, the louse, the one whose removal was a net moral positive. You can debate the argument. It has a cold internal logic. Lizaveta has no place in that logic. She is gentle. She is innocent. She was friends with Sonya. She is exactly the kind of person the theory was supposed to protect. The extraordinary man theory does not survive contact with her raised arm. He escapes, hides what he took under the floorboard, collapses into unconsciousness. The crime is over. The punishment has already begun. The collapse. He wakes in panic. He checks his coat for blood. He receives a summons to the police, not about the murder, about unpaid rent. And at the station, he nearly collapses when he overhears the officers discussing the crime. He disposes of the stolen items under a stone in a courtyard. He never counts the money. He never uses a single coin. He falls into a fever that lasts 4 days. While he is unconscious, the world reorganizes itself around him. His loyal friend, Razumikin, has been nursing him. His mother and sister have arrived in St. Petersburg, and Luzhin, the man Dunya is supposed to marry, has announced his visit. When Luzhin arrives, pompous and self-important, Raskolnikov attacks him immediately, not with violence, with ideas. He identifies Luzhin's philosophy of love yourself first as the philosophical foundation for any crime whatsoever. If self-interest is the basis of all morality, then nothing is off limits. Luzhin leaves furious. The engagement collapses, and Raskolnikov, for a brief moment, feels almost human. Then he starts doing something strange. He wanders the streets and reads newspapers' accounts of the murder with obsessive fascination. Raskolnikov, for a brief moment, feels almost human. Then he starts doing something strange. He wanders the streets and reads newspaper accounts of the murder with obsessive fascination. He sits down with a young police clerk named Zamitov, and in a display of reckless, almost suicidal arrogance, tells him exactly how he would have hidden the evidence, framed as a hypothetical. He visits the crime scene. He asks the new tenants about the bloodstains. He is circling the truth. He cannot stop himself. Then he witnesses Marmeladov, the drunk from the tavern, crushed by a carriage on the street. He carries the broken man home, gives money he cannot afford to the family, and at the deathbed, for the first time, he meets Sonya Marmeladova, pale, frightened, wearing her working clothes, weeping over the father who destroyed her life and whom she loves anyway. Raskolnikov leaves feeling briefly, almost completely alive. Now enter the most unusual detective in all of literature, Porfiry Petrovich, the magistrate investigating the murder, a round-faced, jovial, rambling man who seems to forget what he was saying and then remembers at exactly the wrong moment for you. He has read Raskolnikov's article and he sees it immediately. He is not a philosophical treatise. This is a confession of motive. A brilliant young man has written down in a published journal the exact argument he would use to justify a murder. Their first meeting is playful. Porfiry quotes the article back at Raskolnikov with ironic admiration, then asks, almost as an afterthought, But did you consider yourself one of the extraordinary ones? Raskolnikov answers and immediately knows he has said too much. The second meeting is longer, more intense. Porfiry talks at length about the psychology of criminals, how they return to the scene, how they give themselves away, not through evidence but through behavior. He is describing Raskolnikov to Raskolnikov's face while pretending to theorize in general. The meeting ends with a shock. A tradesman appears in the doorway and calls Raskolnikov a murderer to his face, then vanishes. Raskolnikov is completely shattered because Porfiry is not the real threat. The real threat is Raskolnikov's own conscience, and it has been confessing since the moment the axe fell. Sonya and Lazarus. Raskolnikov visits Sonya in her small room. What he finds there stops him completely. Absolute poverty. An icon in the corner, and on the table a New Testament, the same Bible that had belonged to Lizaveta, the woman he killed, who was friends with Sonia. He asks her to read to him. She reads the story of Lazarus, a man who had been dead for 4 days, sealed in the tomb, beyond any hope of recovery, and was called back to life by a single voice. She reads it in a trembling voice, weeping as she reads, and as she reads, something moves in Raskolnikov that has not moved in weeks. Raskolnikov is Lazarus, spiritually dead since the murder, sealed inside his own underground, and Sonia, trembling, weeping, faithful, is the voice calling him back. He tells her obliquely that he will reveal who killed Lizaveta. She does not fully understand yet, but through the thin shaded wall of the next room, someone is listening to every word. Svidrigailov, Dunia's former employer, who has arrived in St. Petersburg with his own reasons, and who now holds Raskolnikov's confession like a card in his hand. Svidrigailov. Let me tell you about Svidrigailov, and I need you to understand that this man is the most unsettling character in a novel full of unsettling characters. He is charming, worldly, generous in a way. He pays for Katerina Ivanovna's funeral when she collapses and dies. He makes arrangements for the orphaned children. He gives Sonia money. And underneath all of that, nothing. A vast, suffocating nothing. Svidrigailov has done the things Raskolnikov's theory promises will bring freedom. He has crossed every moral line. He has freed himself from conscience. He has placed himself beyond ordinary law. And what did he find on the other side? Emptiness. The freedom the theory promises turns out to be a room with no door. He uses his knowledge of the confession to arrange a private meeting with Dunia. He locks her in his apartment, confesses his obsession. She shoots at him twice, grazes him once. He asks her the only question that still matters to him. Can you ever love me? She says, never. He releases her immediately, keeps the revolver. That night, he distributes his money to everyone who needs it. He has hallucinatory dreams, a drowned girl, a child whose face transforms into something corrupt. At dawn, he walks out into freezing rain. He tells a night watchman, I am going to America, and shoots himself in the temple. That same morning, Raskolnikov confesses. Same city, same dawn, two men, both crossed the line. One ends, one begins. Confession and meaning. Porfiry comes one final time. No papers, no official pretext. He sits down and speaks plainly as one intelligent man to another. I know it was you, not because of evidence, psychologically. There is simply no other explanation that accounts for everything. The false confession of Nikolai, the painter, does not change this. If anything, it confirms it. And then Porfiry does something extraordinary. He urges Raskolnikov to confess voluntarily, not as a threat, as genuine advice. You are young, 8 years, maybe less. You will come back. But if you are caught instead, there is no mercy in that. He leaves. Raskolnikov goes to Sonya. She gives him the cypress wood cross that belonged to Lizaveta, the cross of the woman he murdered, passed from Lizaveta to Sonya to Raskolnikov, a chain of innocent suffering leading towards something. He takes it. He goes to the crossroads at the Haymarket. He kneels. He kisses the earth. The crowd laughs. A drunk man on his knees in the dirt. He stands. He looks across the square. He sees Sonya watching from the far side. He walks to the police station. At the desk, he hears that Svidrigailov shot himself that morning. Something releases in him. He steps outside, sees Sonia, still there, still watching, goes back in. It was I who killed the old pawnbroker and her sister. 8 years, Siberia, hard labor. His mother cannot survive the truth. Her mind fractures. She dies. Dunya and Razumi can marry. And Sonia follows him immediately. She settles in the town near the prison camp. She visits when permitted. The other prisoners call her little mother. In prison, Raskolnikov is isolated, proud, contemptuous. He does not repent. He still believes his only mistake was weakness. The imprisonment does not humble him. Until one morning in early spring, he falls ill. Sonia nurses him. He wakes and she is sitting beside him, and he reaches out and takes her hands, and he weeps. Neither of them speaks. Something has broken open inside him that no word exists to describe. Under his pillow, the New Testament she gave him. He has not opened it yet, but it is there. So, what was Dostoevsky actually saying with all of this? He was living in a Russia where brilliant young people were reading European philosophy and concluding that God was dead. Morality was a social construct, and the rational individual was free to recognize society however logic demanded. And Dostoevsky looked at all of that and felt something close to terror. Not because he was stupid about ideas, because he understood exactly where those ideas led when a real human being actually tried to live them. Raskolnikov is the experiment, and the experiment fails. Not because he gets caught, not because the police close in, but because you cannot kill your conscience. You can build a perfect logic system to justify crossing the line, and then you cross it, and the system means nothing because underneath the system is a human being, and human beings are not built to carry that weight. The punishment in this novel begins the moment the axe falls, not in Siberia, in the fever, in the compulsive returns to the crime scene, in the half confession to strangers. And the real redemption, is not the confession to the police. It is the tears in Siberia, the New Testament under the pillow, two hands reaching across a bed. Dostoevsky believed one thing with absolute certainty. No human being is beyond the reach of grace, no matter how far they have fallen, no matter what they have done. That is why the novel ends not with punishment, but with dawn. If this video made you want to pick up the book, do it. Start tonight. It will be the best unforgettable experience of your reading life. If you already read it, drop in the comments which character hit you hardest.